Then that goes too far, and Madame de Montreuil, she starts to put the law down.
On Easter Sunday, 1768, Sade stood in front of the statue of Louis XIV and noticed a beggar woman in front of a church. And he approached her and asked her to come with him.
One of his first escapades with the law, he went with a prostitute. So they spent the night together, but he made her trample on the crucifix, say, "I deny God, I deny Christ," so forth and so on.
She believed that he was asking her to clean his house in the country. He believed that he was hiring her as a prostitute. In any case, she went with him.
What was her name?
Rose Keller. She said she thought he was stabbing her with a small penknife. He said he never did. She said he was dripping hot wax on her buttocks, and he said he never did. And after a time, she said, "Are you trying to kill me?"
But she was very smart, and she bolted the door from inside, and she created from the sheets on the bed a way to escape. And she sued him under civil law for the harm that had been done to her. But his mother-in-law paid off the debt, and that made Rose Keller, in the eyes of most of the people who write about her, the predator, because she took money.
He was sent to Vincennes under a lettre de cachet, which was an instrument that a king could use to seclude wayward sons of the nobility so that they couldn't cause scandal.
Remettre au porteur le sieur comte de Sade que vous retenez par mes ordres dans mon château de Vincennes.
This is a form of arrest which came without any trial and which came upon the caprice and whim of the king.
What do you think of the relationship between Sade and his mother-in-law?
I think she's the only woman who stood up to him over a period of time, the only one who tried to stop him from doing what he was doing.
She's like the Furies in Greek tragedy. She really is pursuing the male for having broken up that calm, peaceful harmony which women impose on the order of society. You have to look at him like a 4-year-old child who is not socialized yet, who wants what he wants all the time and is screaming for it. That's the way you look at Sade's temperament. It's a profoundly retarded, pathologically retarded infantile mentality mixed into an extremely sophisticated intellectual development.
He lost his fortune, he was terrible with money, he could not manage his marriage, he could not manage his mother-in-law, he could manage none of the regimes under which he lived. Sade was, in many ways, a total failure. He was a disaster. He was, of course, a triumph in his own mind, and that is where most of his books come from. They come from the time that he spent in prison, when he was in solitary confinement, when he was ill, when he was depressed, when he was not entirely in control of his mind.
There's no question that he never would have been a writer of any stature had he not been sent to prison. All of his major work was really from the period when he went into Vincennes in 1774 until 1790. That 16-year period was when he wrote almost everything that exists today.
Prison did terrible things to the Marquis de Sade. His novels are full of chambers, underground passages, mountain fastnesses, monasteries which are lost in dark forests, which are unapproachable except by extraordinary means. There is this claustrophobia in the novels of Sade, which seems to me very much to reflect a certain mental attitude which was forced on him.
This is where she's shown all the instrumental tortures in the cellar.
What is it about his work that's so shocking?
The work is so anti-social, not only in the sexual context of the term, but Sade was a revolutionary. Sade was someone who was out to take society and turn it on its head. And by the time he went into prison, he'd lived enough to have certain ideas about the world and about his own sexuality and about sexuality in general, to write about it for the first time in history.
He saw society as a conspiracy mounted by the weak to stop the progress of the strong.
What was his life like in prison?
It's not like any life in prison we know now. It was extremely luxurious. A nobleman was allowed to bring into a good jail, and Bastille was really the 4-star jail. He's allowed to bring his tapestries, his curtains, his dogs, a few domestics, his piano, his harp, most appurtenances of a decent home. And he was vastly obese by the time he had been in jail for 7 or 8 years. He weighed probably 300 pounds. He had his libraries, he had a secretary. It was really extremely conducive, this life, to writing books.
I think Sade has to simply be treated as we treat the rest of pornography. You know, what I object to is making Sade into a literary man. That I object to. He's a pornographer. That's it. That's what he is. He's just another predatory pimp.
The 120 Days of Sodom is quite the most gruesome book I think that I've ever come across. It's in 4 parts, only the first part of which was written, and the rest is a kind of catalogue. Actually, he calls it a menu of 600 horrible things that you can do to other people singly, in pairs, or collectively, in groups.
I think pornography's main interest is to allay anxiety, to present the sexual scene in such a soft, easy mode that you don't become disturbed at watching it. Sade's book, The 120 Days of Sodom, is designed to arouse anxiety. It's nervous reading. And the early ones are quite, maybe disgusting, but they involve, I think it's number 3, is a priest who likes to suck the snot out of a little girl's nose.
There's a boy who has his penis cut off and a red-hot poker to enlarge his anus, and he is turned into a kind of woman.
And as you read on, you know it's only going to get worse. And it takes a kind of courage, I think, of the stomach, of the mind as well, to read the whole book.
The great film is Pasolini's Salo.
It modernizes Sade's work, but it preserves the spirit of it almost to the letter.
What do you think of Pasolini's Sailor?
It made me feel quite ill. I was sorry I went to see it.
It's a transposition of the plot of that novel to the collapse of Mussolini's fascist dictatorship. The passions of these 4 libertines, as Sade would have called them, are excited by 4 elder women who are like procuresses, who tell erotic tales.